Hi there, this is Brent Harris. I am a coach. I'm experimenting with some rebranding lately, and so I'm actually, so before I'm a personal coach, now a mental wellness coach, focusing a lot more on helping friends, helping folks that are have been on the spiritual path and are in depression or anxiety, and helping people come out of that, as I have helped myself come out of depression and anxiety. Both of which I've had my fair share, and for which I'm essentially free. And depression and anxiety, if they do show up, I have enough tools and insight and clarity to recognize it for what it is and how to heal and release it, which then just brings me even into deeper wellness and deeper peace. And as I experience this deeper wellness and this deeper peace for myself, it's so good and is so natural, and there's so much clarity involved that it becomes very important to me that everybody experience this to whom this is appealing. And so that's the angle that my coaching is taking, and that's the angle that this YouTube channel will take for the time being. So for today's talk, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm gonna have to do this all in one take. Usually in the videos that you've seen in prior videos, they are usually the fourth or the fifth attempt, and so this one, hopefully I can just do it all in one go. And I want to speak on the subject of the spiritual search. So this won't be everybody that I'm speaking to now, but it might be you if you have found yourself to be on a spiritual quest or a spiritual search, where you've maybe come across some literature in your life, be it Buddhist or Christian, or if it's kind of like one of these new speakers such as Eckhart Tolle, or any of these, there's so many very, very excellent speakers and writers out there now on the subject of enlightenment. And there's this whole group of people who would come into literature videos or talks like these, and something would turn on in them like it did in me, where it's suddenly everything that has been important to this person up until this point is no longer important. And what's important now is spirituality, deep, clear self-realization, enlightenment, freedom from suffering, and experiencing that deep, deep unified peace that comes with enlightenment. And so when that search picks up, sometimes it begins as a curiosity, as kind of a hobby almost, to try to explore it. I'm just gonna do a little thing there, yeah. And then what almost inevitably happens is the spiritual search picks up a life of its own. So it's almost you get to a certain point where you can't even put it down anymore. It's just, you can try to ignore it or give up on it, but no matter what, you just keep going and going and going, because it's just like, on the deepest level, we're convinced that there is an end to suffering, a complete end to suffering, while alive in the physical body, and that it's possible, and with enough focus and enough determination, that reality is possible for us. That is a deep knowing that we all have, and it's so incredibly compelling that it just pulls us until we get there. And so from my perspective now, as I offer you this video, I wouldn't say that I am completely 100% free of suffering. Although that might be what I would say. Perhaps at the 99% mark. I find myself at a point where I am no longer looking for anything, no longer seeking anything, don't feel like there is essentially anything lacking in myself, and I feel this sort of a marvelous detachment from certain outcomes, which isn't to say that I feel like indifferent, or like I'm not gonna try, or like I don't want to do anything, or like I'm lazy or lethargic, or like not like putting any effort into life at all. Quite the opposite. I still find that I have ambitions and goals, and there's a great thrust, a great drive in me to do a lot of things, to make this video, for example, and to write things and put it out. But I'm under no misapprehension that accomplishing anything, or getting a certain amount of views, or a certain amount of money, or success, or fame, that it would give me what I cannot have now, or give me something that I do not have now or am not now. I hope that makes sense. I believe, yeah. So that's the situation. So in this, what I found, there was a period of time when I was in a very deep spiritual search, and I was deep in seeking. And that was because I was very much of this idea that if I just meditated enough, if I just went deep enough, if I just read the next video, if I just got to the next if I read the next book, got to the next video, that eventually I would reach this point of enlightenment, and just getting there was really, really important. And so this was going on. The height of it was when I was away from Canada, going on my big away from Canada trip with my girlfriend that I've mentioned in previous videos. And what happened was there actually was a point, and this was actually, all right, hold on. I did reach a point where I really hit the crest of the wave, where it really became totally and incredibly apparent that there was no seeking necessary. Not only is it that there's no more seeking necessary, but there never was any seeking necessary, that there's nothing outside of myself to seek that could give me any truth that's not available within me now. And so as it happens, this moment was actually, it was mushroom induced, it was drug induced. It was when I took mushrooms in one of these bars in Thailand that have them for sale. Not totally legal, but you can kind of find them. And I want to be clear as I say this, that it's not because I took mushrooms, or it wasn't some quality about the mushrooms that offered this realization. It was my own. I had really made up my mind very, very firmly, very resolutely, that spiritual insight was only available through drugs. And so therefore, I had to delay this realization really, until I could actually get access to mushrooms. And then I take the mushrooms. It's like, okay, here's, the spiritual insight. So I'm in no way saying that you need drugs for spiritual realization, or that they're necessary, or that they even accelerate the process. Maybe that might be arguable, but anyways, like that was the case for me. And so I was on mushrooms, and I had this beautiful, beautiful trip, and a lot of things occurred to me, and even more misapprehensions and false ideas were just kind of removed, as is the case with mushrooms. They're a very natural, very organic drug. I mean, they're a mushroom. They come out of the dirt, quite literally. And then kind of the final thing was that I remember I was speaking. I kind of had a vision of communicating with a guide, and there was no actual image of the guide. It was just kind of like a presence that was just there. And the guide was like, okay, hey, do you want to see? Do you want to see it all? Do you want the final truth, the final realization? Like, do you want it, the gamut, the Holy Grail? And I was like, yeah, do it. Yeah, give it to me. Let's have a look. And so there was like this curtain that was swept away, and I had this brief sight of like a series of golden arches and golden doorways, and I it was sort of like, it was almost like I was aware in some sense that that every, like, all these different arches and doorways that I was looking at were like kind of like windows into different realities and different dimensions, and there was a sense that this really was it. Like, oh, okay, this is the this is the kind of the matrix behind physical reality. Like, this is like the deeper reality that I was looking for, and kind of in that moment, like, it was done, and I was kind of left there nonplussed. And then the mushrooms were kind of starting to wear off, and I was starting to even out again, and I was left with this feeling of elation, but also with this feeling of disillusionment, which, not to be confused with disappointment. There wasn't disappointment, but disillusionment in the sense that it was like, there was all this, there was like about as much ceremony as a person could ask for. I was able to view it. I was, able to see it all. I was able to get a glimpse behind the curtain. And it's like, okay, there you go. That's it. In a sense, it was almost like looking under any other rock. It's just like, okay, that's that. That's what that is. And so as soon as it happened, there was a calm, as follows any, accomplishment of any kind, spiritual or otherwise. And then there was this sudden, that sudden, very familiar impulse that arose again in me, which is like, all right, what's next? But as soon as that happened, there was sort of this extra awareness in me that was like, what do you mean, what's next? Like, that's it. That's it, right? There's nothing else. What else is there to seek? What else is there to look for? Nothing. It's like, okay. So what now? And, nothing. No, what now? That's it. And it's almost like the whole universe was like, there you go. Because there had been so much asking and seeking and looking and what is it? Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And like it's almost like the universe created something for me. Like, here you go. But just like the punchline is that there just never was anything to look for, nothing to seek. And so there was a period of time that I think lasted a couple months or perhaps even a couple years before it finally concluded. There was this period where there was still just out of force of habit, these impulses to look for something. Oh, this is what I need. This is what I need. This is what I need. But every time it came up, it's like, no, I don't need anything. I don't need anything. There's nothing I'm lacking. There's nothing else. And that phrase just kept going. And so it was at that point that it became apparent that I was awake. It's like, okay, I'm awake. I'm as complete as I'll ever be. And so the next phase was not looking for something else to complete me. There was an entirely different phase. And this is what some speakers refer to as the post-awakening phase, or what happens after awakening. What do you do? And this is why I'm making this video, because there's this huge group of people who will go through intense awakening experiences. And then when it happens, it's like, it's really impossible to look at things the same way anymore. And it really messes with a person's relationship with other people and with their lives, because there's just a total, how do you speak to some people anymore? How do you communicate via those channels of communication anymore, when so many things just become irrelevant and so many things are just reframed? And there's intense loneliness that can come with it as a result. Quick pause here. Okay, we're good. So the next phase that is laid out before us is being awake and then beginning the healing process. Because for those of us who have not yet awakened to their basic spiritual truth, to basic spirituality, they are unaware that they are suffering, but that doesn't mean that they're not suffering. It just means that they're just on the material level, they're seeking for something because they feel like if they get something, then it will complete them. And that is pre-awakening. And they are unaware that they are holding themselves in a state of perpetual suffering because they hold on to the belief perpetually. They're constantly holding and acting from this belief that they are incomplete and that they need something in order to complete themselves. And so then they keep going and searching and striving and seeking and trying and getting and kind of making being on an agenda and kind of trying to get something out of life. After awakening, you realize that there's suffering. You realize that you've caused suffering in other people all the way up until this moment, in other people and in yourself and on the planet. And then the next phase is the healing phase. And so what's happening there is you are awake, but there's all this psychological programming in you. There's all this unprocessed emotion. There's all this painful, limiting thinking that you become aware of that's limiting you. And then the whole motion comes towards healing. So processing that emotion so that it can be purified and reintegrated, and then exchanging all of your limiting, painful thinking for better, positive, more beneficial thinking. And as you do that, what happens is the light that you are, it can shine outward, for lack of a better word, it can shine outward without being impeded, without any impediments. So you resolve some unprocessed grief from something that happened in your past that you have never faced up until now. You go into it, you resolve it, and now you're lighter, and now your light shines brighter. And if you have beliefs such as like, I don't deserve love, I'm unlovable, life is painful, everybody hates me. You go into those and you change them for better beliefs, and then you get to relax even more and you feel even more peace. And then the whole process is just healing and healing and healing. And so this is different from the seeking, because seeking is like, I need something over there and then I'm okay. Healing is just like wearing like 1,000 coats on a hot day and just taking one off after the other, and it gets better and better and better. And there's no hurry to get to the very bottom of it, because even that hurry is like that sense of urgency is still like one of those coats. Like a sense of urgency is actually a subtle form of ego pain that we discard as well. So all sense of urgency we remove, and then eventually, theoretically at least, we just bottom out, where there's no separation anymore between yourself and universe. There's no suffering. There's no sense of like holding on to suffering or negativity. There are some myths that if you drop so much artificial suffering, that you can even hit this point where life feels so incredibly good that it's actually impossible to sustain life in the physical body. And so you actually even have to be kind of careful about it, that you don't go through too much all at once. That's actually quite it's a possibility that you want to be aware of. A different way of viewing this, using different language, is the process of releasing the Kundalini. I'm less versed in this particular language, but in the yoga tradition and in the India tradition, if I'm not mistaken, there's an incredible amount of energy compact at the base of the spine that is held down by our thinking. And then when we release negativity, release suffering, all that energy is allowed to release, and then you become lighter as a person. And that's when you get these feelings of like, ooh, like just like, like it can sometimes feel like electricity. And that's like a sudden Kundalini release. And the idea is to release as much as you can. So yeah, so I think that's what I came here to say. So that's what awakening is. That's my awakening journey. After awakening, it's the healing phase, and then healing all the way into enlightenment. And it's a really pleasurable journey. It's really joyful. It's very nice. There's no need to get to the end of it at all. And also what happens is that as you do this, you come online as a human. You actually, like before in the spiritual searching phase, I'm kind of rushing because like we're kind of hitting the 20-minute mark, and I'm kind of want to stay below it if I can. In the searching phase, there's this, a lot of us feel like, oh, I just want to become a monk and retreat into the mountains and leave forever and just like work on myself and just become more and more enlightened. And then post-awakening, you just realize that it's to withhold yourself and to sequester yourself into a hermitage. It's a selfish thing, because you're here not just to free yourself from suffering, but you're also here to offer your gifts. And I really believe every human being comes onto earth, into life, with gifts, with something to offer, just the same way that every single plant has eventually seeds to produce and give out. Or rather, every plant flowers, and releases the fragrance of the flower into the air. So as you move into that healing process, you become more integrated as a human being. And so you don't become kind of a spiritual weirdo where you're all like high and mighty or whatever, but you actually become more of just a person, just a regular person, not special in any way, not even trying to stand out, not hoping that people will like see how cool and enlightened you are. You kind of root into the earth and just offer your gifts and just delight in that motion as things just get better and better and more peaceful. And as you grow in wellness with every single day. Hope that was helpful. If you'd like some one-on-one help, then hit me up for a free session. The first session is always free. Just email me, Brent Heuras, BRENTHURAS @gmail.com, or go to BrentHeuras. Email is @gmail.com, and the website is BRENTHURAS @gmail.com. Sorry, .com. And then you can find all the information you need for a free session there. Okay, I love you to pieces. Take care. Goodbye.